The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements of fact expressed by Gwilda Wiyaka's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the Science of Magic or endorsed in any manner by Gwilda Wiyaka, Relmar McConnell Media Company, its affiliated networks, stations, or employees. Welcome to the Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, a program dedicated to uncovering the unified nature of reality and humanity's ever-evolving place as truly galactic beings. For more information on the Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, visit us online at www.thescienceofmagic.net.
Welcome to the Science of Magic, a place where science and magic come together to transform fact into evolving truth. We're coming to you through the X-Zone Broadcast Network, xzbn.net. You can be found on our website, www.thescienceofmagic.net. I'm your host, Gwilda Wiyaka. This hour we'll be exploring It's Not the Dogs. I've always loved animals and the out of doors. In my early 20s, I attended college in California for a time. While there, I took a job working for a kennel that trained service dogs. Armed with studies in psychology, I quickly became head trainer specializing in search and rescue. I adopted 3 German Shepherds from the training facility. They were deemed too skittish to be trained for search and rescue, so I chose to train them in my spare time. Before California, while in boarding school and later in college in Switzerland, I skied in the winter and studied mountain climbing in the summer. While never becoming a top-notch climber, I became very proficient at direct aid climbing and rappelling. I studied and knew all the knots and so on. The normal progression was to train in search and rescue. Moving back to Wyoming to finish my psychology degree, I volunteered for the search and rescue there. At the time, it was nearly unheard of for a woman to be in the field, but as a dog handler, they let me in. I was also studying shamanism with a Lakota teacher. My shamanic skills include animal communication and tracking. Between my dogs and the shamanic training, I developed an interesting style. When arriving on a missing person's scene, I would request an article of clothing from the person in question. That's standard when working with dogs, so no one thought anything of it. I would hold the article and get a feel for the person before having the dogs scent it. Under the guise of squatting down with the dogs and scratching their ears and adjusting their leads, I would secretly go into journey trance. Casting around me, I could get a feel of the direction the person had gone. My dogs and I would go in that direction until they caught the scent, and it was a done deal. It wasn't long before my dogs got a good reputation in the field, and we were called out on cases more frequently. Before letting me work with them, the director of our search and rescue team insisted that I always be buddied with one of the more experienced men. I chafed at being treated differently, but complied in order to participate. One of the volunteer team members was a very large police detective. As luck would have it, I was paired with him more often than not. He seemed like a nice enough guy, if a bit quiet, but he made me nervous as he watched me like a hawk. At first, I thought he was just being overprotective. My cop cousins were like that. One day, we'd stopped to water the dogs, and he was still staring at me. "What?" I finally asked in exasperation. "I'm trying to figure you." "What's to figure? I'm no great mystery." "If you say so," he muttered. Several weeks later, we were called out in a particularly time-sensitive case. A mentally impaired child had wandered away from his parents' campsite. Nights were getting chilly, and he needed his meds. Worse, the entire campground had already been out combing the countryside, messing up tracks and scent. My detective guardian and I were assigned the case in hopes that my dogs could find the child. Less than 2 hours later, we returned with the little boy, happy as a clam, riding on my companion's broad shoulder. After returning the child to his family, we took a break before heading back into town. I was sitting at a picnic table, resting idly, petting my dogs, and drinking a bottle of water. My guardian sat across from me, dissecting me with narrowed ice blue eyes. "What?" I demanded. "It's not the dogs," he stated. "What do you mean it's not the dogs?" "It's something you're doing." "Why, whatever makes you think that?" "Call it a hunch." The man was shamanically gifted, I realized in amazement. He had one heck of an intuition and had been picking up when I went into altered state. A hunch, huh? I probed. Yeah, a hunch, he defended. If you say so, I responded, tongue in cheek. Our guest this hour is Robert L. Snow, author of Portrait of a Past Life Skeptic. Served for 38 years in the Indianapolis Police Department, retiring in 2007 with the rank of captain. While at the police department, he served in such capacities as police department executive officer, captain of detectives, and commander of the Homicide Branch. Robert L. Snow has been published writer for over 30 years. He has over 100 articles and short stories. In addition, he's published 15 books. After this commercial break, I'll introduce Robert, and together we'll explore past life, police work, and copley intuition. So don't go away. You're listening to The Science of Magic. Prior innovative episodes can always be found on our website, www.thescienceofmagic.net. The scientist and the mystic have been on an age-old, relentless search with one thing in common. They seek truth. Their paths converge in the 40,000-year-old practice of shamanism, an ancient science delving to the quantum level of life, facilitating healing, manifestation, and evolution. I'm Gwilda Wiyaka, the founder and director of Path Home Shamanic Arts School, a unique Colorado State-certified occupational school, training shamanic practitioners and teachers. We also provide classes for empowering personal lives through shamanism. Our certification classes are in week-long segments enabling international participation, and online classes and long-distance shamanic healing sessions are available. Come discover the science of magic in the limitless world of shamanism. www.findyourpathhome.com. Welcome back. This is The Science of Magic, dedicated to unification and evolution of consciousness. We're coming to you through the X-Zone Broadcast Network, xzbn.net. I'm your host, Gwilda Wiyaka. Our guest this hour is retired police officer Captain Robert L. Snow, the author of Portrait of a Past Life Skeptic. His books and author's page can be found on Amazon.com by searching for Robert L. Snow. Robert, thanks for joining us on The Science of Magic.
Thank you for having me on your show.
You know, every really good detective I've known has a very strong intuitive side. How did your intuition help you in accessing and researching your past life experiences?
A lot of police officers quite often depend on hunches when you're working a case. But in this case, that wasn't necessarily what I did. In this case, I was looking for facts. I was looking for solid facts, and so I really couldn't depend on hunches. I couldn't depend on gut feelings. I wanted some proof, one way or the other, and that was quite a departure from usual police investigation.
So would you be willing to share how you used hunches in your police work?
Excuse me?
Would you be willing to share how you used hunches in your police work?
Well, in any police case, you have a hunch. Did this person do it? Did this person not do it? And you use your gut feeling about whether a person's innocent or guilty, and whether to pursue evidence against them or not. You use hunches as to whether there is any defining evidence in this case and where to find it at. You really do. You go a lot on your gut feeling in police work, but in this case, I simply couldn't. Again, this case to me was so unusual and so different. I didn't want to depend on hunches. I didn't want to depend on gut feelings. I wanted to depend on facts.
So like cold, hard facts versus anything that had to do with intuition, because you're already dancing in the intuitive realm?
Yes. The whole case, it bothered me so much. I wanted to clear it. I wanted to clear this case, get it out of my life so much that I couldn't build it on anything but facts.
Let's back up a little bit, and would you mind sharing what the case was? What was going on?
Well, I got kind of dared into taking a past life regression. It was at a party thing where I was talking to someone about past life regression, and I didn't realize this was a psychologist I was talking to, who I didn't realize at the time had used past life regression in her practice, and I was putting down the idea of past lives and reincarnation and telling the person how silly I thought it was. That was just a lot of wishful thinking by people who don't want to believe they die. And anyway, I basically got dared into doing it. I got dared into taking a past life regression. And even though I really didn't want to do it, I got myself kind of backed into a corner where I couldn't get out of it. And so I went and had a past life regression. And the things I saw during this regression were so vivid and so clear that it really, really bothered me. It didn't seem like my imagination, didn't seem like something I just dreamed up. It was so clear and vivid during the hypnosis that I had to investigate to find out where these memories came from.
Yeah. So what memories were there?
Actually, during the hypnotic stay. I went to 3 different past lives. 2 of them were so far back in history, that you couldn't verify them. They were way before written history, so there was no point in even trying to verify them. But one life I went to appeared to have taken place in the late 1800s or early 1900s, and it's reason enough that I knew that I could verify the facts of the things I saw during the regression about this person. And so that it really bothered me because, again, everything was so clear and vivid, and I just didn't know where the facts I spouted off about during the hypnosis came from. And so that's what my investigation was about. I wanted to find out, where had this come from? Had I read this somewhere before and just forgotten about it? Had I seen it in a movie or something? So I want to know where these memories come from that were so vivid.
Did they feel like memories, Robert, or did they feel like something coming from your imagination?
No, they didn't seem like memories. They were much too vivid. During the regression, I could see things as clearly as in ordinary life. One time I was in like a forest, and I could see the veins in the leaves. And interesting enough, I can only see things. I could feel things. I could taste things. I could smell things. And this was really bizarre. I mean, at the time, I didn't think it was anything but the hypnosis. I thought this is just the hypnosis. It's playing tricks on your mind. You don't really smell that. You don't really taste that. But during the hypnosis, I could use all my senses. And again, everything was extraordinarily vivid. But again, I wanted to know where did all these facts I talked about, where they come from? Because I didn't know who I was talking about. I didn't know who this person was, but I seemed to know a lot about him. And that just concerned me. And my investigation was trying to find out where I came across these facts.
So when you, I'm having read part of your book, and it was very engaging, by the way. When you started going into hypnosis, at first you seemed like you were sticking with the mind pretty much and felt like you weren't getting anywhere. Would you mind sharing the progression that you went through before to get to that place where you were smelling and seeing everything?
Yeah. Actually, when I went to the hypnotist's office, I didn't really think it would work. I didn't really think I could even be hypnotized. I really didn't. I thought I was much too strong-willed. And for the first 20 minutes or so, absolutely nothing happened. I mean, the thing is, I had been dared to do this, and I didn't want to do it, but I got still pressured into it. So my thought was at the time, I was going to go ahead and do this. I was going to go have the hypnotic session. I'd be hypnotized. I brought my own tape recorder along to make a recording of it. Then I was going to go back and show the psychologist at the police department, see, I did it, nothing happened, it was stupid. So I decided, well, what I would do, I would cooperate 100% with the psychologist. I would do everything she asked me to do to show that I tried to, but nothing happened. And so for the first 20 minutes, though, nothing did happen. I mean, she asked me to imagine a lot of things. There's a lot of visualization in her technique. A lot of visualize this, and I'm trying to help and everything. When the hypnosis actually came on, it was just like walking through a door suddenly. It just snapped on suddenly. She told me I was walking down some steps. She said she was counting the steps I was walking down. I'm just trying to be cooperative. She's talking, counting these steps, and I'm trying to be cooperative. Well, when I went into the hypnotic state, it was almost like just walking through a door. Suddenly, it just hit me. There I was. And suddenly, I was in another place. I knew I was still sitting in the psychologist's office. I could still feel the couch underneath me and all. But at the same time, I was somewhere else. And the other place I was was extraordinarily vivid. I could see, I could feel wind blowing in my face. Again, I could use all my senses in this other place. But at the time, again, I still thought it's just part of the hypnosis. It's just hypnosis playing a trick on my mind.
So did you do more than one session?
Yeah, well, I only later, because this when I got through with this session, everything was. I said a lot of things about this last person who lived in the 1800s, early 1900s. I said a lot of things about him, and so I was trying to find out who this person was. I didn't have a name at the time, and so I actually went back for a second session to see if I could get more information on this person. The person was a portrait painter, and I saw him painting a portrait as part of the hypnosis. And interesting enough, it was a portrait of a hunchback woman, which I found really unusual. I thought, surely God, this come from somewhere in this life. I mean, how many paintings of hunchback women could there be? And I thought I had seen this painting somewhere, saw a little blurb about the artist, and that's how I knew these facts. And so I started searching, and I found out that finding this painting wasn't as easy as I thought. Keep in mind, this was in the early 1990s. This is before the internet. You just couldn't pull up a search engine and put hunchback woman painting in it. You actually had to go to the library and pull books off the shelf, and this made my research a lot more difficult. But I couldn't find anything, zero, on the painter or anything I'd said about him. I couldn't find that hunchback woman painting. So I actually went back to the psychologist for a second session to see if I could gain more information about this person, so I could maybe find out where the information might came from. But interesting enough, during the second session, every time she tried to take me to the painter's life, nothing happened. I couldn't go. Nothing would happen. And after the session, I asked her why, and she said, "Well, you already know everything you need to know," which at the time I didn't believe was so. But it did turn out to be true, but at the time I didn't think so.
That's interesting. Did you feel that she kind of directed your sessions? At this point, were you still thinking maybe it was kind of implanted memories or that sort of thing?
No, not at all. She was just guiding, because interesting enough, several times during the hypnosis, she would tell me to do something, and I wouldn't do it. That's the funny thing. People think of hypnosis, they watch these movies where they get you on a stage and make you cluck like a chicken and what have you. That's not true. When you're in hypnosis, you're still very aware of your surroundings. You're in control. You're aware. Nobody has control of you like I show you on the movies and TV. You still know exactly where you're at. You know exactly you're in control. But several times during the hypnosis, she told me to do something, and I didn't. I wanted to do something else, and I did something else. So I know she wasn't. She was a guide, but she really didn't instruct me on what to see or what to do. I kind of chose that for myself.
So you kind of tested it out so that you knew you weren't being controlled.
Yes.
That's very copley of you. Did you?
Police work's all about power. Police work's all about authority and power. So you don't really like other people controlling you.
I can see that. So, did you feel like any of the information was metaphorical, or was it all literal?
I thought it was too vivid. It was much, much too vivid. That I think it could be metaphorical. I thought these were memories, but I thought, again, I really thought these are memories from this life. I've seen this painting, I read about the artist, and that's how I know these facts. I thought they were true facts. I thought everything I saw were actual events, but that I had seen them somewhere in this life, and they were simply buried in my subconscious mind. And during hypnosis, brought them up and reordered them into a story. And so my quest was to find out how I came across these facts. But actually, after I got done with the session, I actually wrote down all the things I had said during the session about this artist that could be proved, disproved. And I found I had said 28 things about him that could be proved or disproved. And so I want to know, where did these 28 facts come from? They had to come from this life somewhere. Somewhere I've read about this artist and saw something about him, and that's where they came from. And that was my quest, to find out, first off, who he was. I did find out eventually, and then find out how I knew these facts.
Wow. So you were going under the premise that it was something that was in your subconscious from this lifetime versus a past life. We'll pick up on this one on the other side of this short break. We do have to take a break. Robert and I will return to our discussion after this short break. You're listening to The Science of Magic on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net. I'm your host, Gwilda Wiyaka. Previous broadcasts of thought-provoking episodes can always be found on our website, www.thescienceofmagic.net. We will be back, so don't you go away. The scientist and the mystic have been on an age-old, relentless search with one thing in common. They seek truth. Their paths converge in the 40,000-year-old practice of shamanism, an ancient science delving to the quantum level of life, facilitating healing, manifestation, and evolution. I'm Gwilda Wiyaka, the founder and director of Path Home Shamanic Arts School, a unique Colorado State certified occupational school training shamanic practitioners and teachers. We also provide classes for empowering personal lives through shamanism. Our certification classes are in week-long segments enabling international participation, and online classes and long-distance shamanic healing sessions are available. Come discover the science of magic in the limitless world of shamanism. www.findyourpathhome.com. Welcome back. This is the Science of Magic, a place where magic and science come together to promote enlightenment. We're coming to you through the X-Zone Broadcast Network, xzbn.net. Visit us online at www.thescienceofmagic.net. I'm your host, Gwilda Wiyaka. Our guest this hour is retired police officer Captain Robert L. Snow, the author of Portrait of a Past Life Skeptic. His books and author's page can be found on Amazon.com by searching for Robert L. Snow. Robert, we were just getting into the fact that when you started researching your past life experience, your premise was that it was actually something dredged from your subconscious that you'd experienced this lifetime. How'd that work for you?
Well, it didn't work out real well. But, people maybe don't know, but you never really forget anything you experience in this life, but most of it's buried in your subconscious mind, not your conscious memory. And so I assumed that I had seen something about this artist somewhere and just forgot about it. But during your hypnosis, you tap into your subconscious mind, and that's where I assumed it come from. So at first I tried to just forget about the whole session. When I left the session, I thought, well, this is, just forget about it. This is, just as bull. It doesn't mean anything. But I couldn't. The vividness of the session, how clear it was and how it seemed factual and orderly to me kind of really bugged me. And it started bugging me really bad. And finally I thought, well, I just need to find this painting of this hunchback woman. I mean, how many paintings of hunchback women could there be? Find it. Once you find it, it'll all come to you. Oh, yeah, that's where I saw it at, and I remember now. So I started a search to find a painting of a hunchback woman. Again, this was in pre-internet days, so I just couldn't go on the internet and find it. I had to go to the public library. Well, unfortunately, I found out our public library has hundreds and hundreds of art books. But I started going through, and it took me several months, but I went through every single art book looking for this painting.
Nothing is not tenacious.
Well, it's part of police work. A lot of people don't understand. You watch television and movies, you think, boy, police work's all exciting, gunfights and chasing people. Now, most police work, particularly detective work, is pretty tedious. It's mostly just going through, searching for evidence, going through reams of, files and things, looking for that one little nugget. And that's what I was doing. And an awful lot of police work is extremely tedious, like this was. But I wasn't going to give up. I've been a detective for well over 30 years, and I wasn't going to give up. So I went through every single book at the library. Didn't find the hunchback woman. So I started going around to various independent bookstores, so Barnes & Noble and what have you. Figured, well, they had books the library didn't. Looking through their books, didn't find it. So I went and started checking with art dealers around the area, art galleries and art dealers. Figured, well, sure, you describe the painting, I'm sure this is unique. Sure that they'd know about it. Nobody knew anything about it. I couldn't find any information at all about it. And it really bugged me. I couldn't imagine, well, how could I figured it had to be a halfway famous painting, or I would never have seen it. I'm not much of an art aficionado or anything, so it had to be pretty famous, or I wouldn't have seen it. So I couldn't understand why I couldn't find a picture, why I couldn't find a picture of it in a book, or why art dealers would know where it was. But I searched everywhere I could think of, and I used every bit of detective skill I had, but I could not find any evidence of it anywhere. And so finally, I had to just give up. I was in charge of homicide for a long time, and there are simply cases you won't solve. There are cases just don't have enough evidence, and you're not going to solve them. And I thought that's what this case would be. I thought, well, I'm not going to solve this case. There's not enough evidence, and I can't find anything, so I need to just forget about it. But that's easier said than done. I didn't forget about it.
So it kept writing you, and you kept coming back to it. Is that correct?
Well, actually, what happened? I tried to forget about it. I really did. I said, just forget about it, Bob. But it didn't work. I kept thinking about it. The problem was, during the first couple of years after the hypnotic session, if I closed my eyes, I could still see that painting. Every single brushstroke in that painting was that clear. My memory was that clear in my mind. I could see that painting so clear. And it's just kind of bugged me. How could you have this kind of memory about something? So actually, I tried to just forget about the case and not think about it. But it didn't work. I kept thinking about it regardless. But anyway, about a couple months after I gave up the investigation, it was getting towards my wife and I's anniversary, and we wanted to go somewhere we knew it had been, and she decided she wanted to go to New Orleans. And I thought, well, it's not a good idea. We'd never been there before. So we went there for a vacation on our anniversary, went to New Orleans, and we're just, we had a really good time there. And our last day there, our plane didn't leave till late at the evening, so we spent the day just kind of window shopping in the French Quarter. Well, if you go down to New Orleans, at least in the early 1990s, Royal Street in New Orleans was all art galleries. And so we were just walking through the art galleries, looking at the paintings, and wasn't paying much attention to them. I'm again, not much of an art aficionado, but I enjoyed good painting. So anyway, we were walking down the street, and I noticed as we walked down the street, the galleries are getting smaller and the paintings more obscure. But again, I'm just enjoying myself. So we finally found a little gallery down at the very end of Royal Street, and there was two-story, and it said second floor modern art. I've never cared for modern art. My wife does. She went upstairs, so I'm walking along the first floor, just kind of glanced at the paintings, not recognizing any of the paintings, and certainly didn't recognize any of the artists. As I'm walking along, and I get to the corner, there was a portrait on the easel, and I just kind of give it a glance. Then I took another step, and it's like I walked into a glass wall. I stopped so abruptly. It was the painting of the Hunchback Woman.
Oh, no.
But there are times in police work, a number of times in police work, when I've been really frightened. I mean, something happened and you're really scared. Everybody looks brave on TV, but let me tell you, when they're really scared, there are situations in police work that really frighten you. But the thing about police work is you have training and experience to fall back on. I mean, you might be in a situation where you're going at somebody really dangerous, or you're in a dark building looking for somebody really dangerous, and it's scary. But you have your training experience. You know what to do, what he's likely to do. In this case, I had no training and no experience. I didn't know what to do. I mean, I looked at it and what do you do? I mean, what's the odds of this happening? I mean, to me, it was too big a coincidence to be a coincidence. How could this painting that I've been searching for months and saw in my aggression just suddenly be here in New Orleans when I just happened to be in New Orleans at this time? And I probably sat and stared at that painting for 3 or 4 minutes, because I tried to find some rational explanation. How could this happen? First off, I told myself, well, this is not really the painting. It looks like it, but it's not really it. It's just close. But I closed my eyes, and I could see the painting still there, very vivid, and opened my eyes and realized this is the painting. And then for a while, I'd kind of, wondered about the fact maybe I'm not really here. Maybe I'm in a nursing home somewhere. Or well, because things like this, now they happen on the X-Files, they happen in movies and TV. They don't happen to people in real life. Come on. Things like this do not happen. I kept telling myself, do not happen to people in real life. I didn't know how to deal with this. I had no training experience. I just kind of stood there just stunned. I had no idea what to do. Fortunately, after about 3 or 4 minutes, a salesman obviously saw me staring at this painting and thought, hot dog. So he came over and said, I bet you'd think how nice I'd look over your fireplace, aren't you? Now, that's why I want a pension, a hunchback woman I don't know over my fireplace. But anyway, I said, I don't recognize the artist. Who's the artist? I was looking for a signature on the painting. And he said, well, hang on a second, I got a bio. So he rolled over to his desk and he thumbs through some papers and finds a bio. And it come back and says, J. Carroll Beckwith. And the bad thing is he had a little biography below. It was like a paragraph or so. And I recognized 5 of the things I'd said during the aggression that were in the biography. And that really bugged me. It really bugged me at first. It's like, wait a minute, how could you know these things, Bob? I mean, defining the painting was bad enough, but I kept trying to say, wait a minute, Bob, hang on. You've still seen this painting somewhere before. That's all there is to it. You've seen it somewhere before. I mean, this is one heck of a coincidence, finding it in New Orleans like this, one stunning coincidence. But I knew I'd seen it before. So I asked the dealer, I says, well, I've seen this painting somewhere before. Has it been in a museum or like a traveling show or something? He said, no. He said, no, this has been a private collection for years. He said, we bought it as part of an estate. And he said, look, to be honest with you, he said, Beckwith wasn't that famous. I said, I can let this go pretty cheap. I remember correctly at the time, I think they had the painting marked $5,000, but I found paintings are like used cars. You can put any price on it, but it's what you can negotiate. But at the time, I wasn't going to buy it, certainly not, because that's all I need to spend $3,000 or $4,000 on a hunchback woman painting and get home and find out, I saw it 6 years ago and now I'm stuck with it. So I basically just copied down all the information the man had given me on Beckwith, and that he had that bio, and I thought, well, I'll go back home to Indianapolis now. Now I got some basis to do some real serious research on it. I'll research this J. Carroll Beckwith, and I'll find out where I know about him from before. Where does this information come from? Once I do research, I'll realize, oh yeah, I remember I saw it this place or this place, the other. And so we come back. So we left New Orleans to come back home, and I went to the library and I talked to the librarian about doing research on J. Carroll Beckwith, and I found something kind of dismaying. Something kind of bothered me. There was very, very, very little information about him in the library. The most she found was probably wouldn't fill in a half a page, and this was in the very large books on artists. Apparently, he was a portrait painter who lived in New York the late 1800s, early 1900s, and he painted mostly portraits his whole life, but he was never terribly successful, and he never, ever painted any masterpiece paintings, nothing you would ever recognize, nothing anyone would ever recognize. He made a decent living painting portraits, but he never painted anything that people would say, oh yeah, I know that's a Beckwith painting.
We're going to have to take another break, Robert. Robert and I will be back on the flip side of this commercial break. You're listening to The Science of Magic on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, xzbn.net, the place where altruistic professionals of science and the esoteric create common ground for the betterment of our world. You can always listen to previous transformative broadcasts on our website, www.thescienceofmagic.net. The scientist and the mystic have been on an age-old, relentless search with one thing in common. They seek truth. Their paths converge in the 40,000-year-old practice of shamanism, an ancient science delving to the quantum level of life, facilitating healing, manifestation, and evolution. I'm Gwilda Wiyaka, the founder and director of Path Home Shamanic Arts School, a unique Colorado State certified occupational school training shamanic practitioners and teachers. We also provide classes for empowering personal lives through shamanism. Our certification classes are in week-long segments enabling international participation, and online classes and long-distance shamanic healing sessions are available. Come discover the science of magic in the limitless world of shamanism. www.findyourpathhome.com. Welcome back. This is The Science of Magic, bringing together gifted people of service to the world. We're coming to you through the X-Zone Broadcast Network, xzbn.net. Our website is www.thescienceofmagic.net. I'm your host, Gwilda Wiyaka. Our guest this hour is retired police officer Captain Robert L. Snow, the author of Portrait of a Past Life Skeptic. His books and author's page can be found on Amazon.com by searching for Robert L. Snow. Robert, it sounds to me like you were hanging on to your old reality tenaciously. Did it finally crash for you?
Finally, but it took me a long time. I wasn't ready to give up and say, yes, this was reincarnation. I'm sorry. To do that, you have to be able to say, gee, my whole life has been wrong. My whole belief system is wrong, and I have to start all over again. I wasn't going to do that on just what I had so far. I was still convinced that I knew something about Beckwith from somewhere else. So after I tried the public library downtown and didn't find hardly anything, the librarian suggested I go to the art museum library, which she said they have a bigger collection of art books. So I went up there and again found hardly anything. There are a few little facts, but the bad thing is every little fact they found confirmed to what I had seen during the regression. So I've talked to librarians at the art museum. I said, I've seen this somewhere. Where could I? There's a book about him, movie, TV. He said, no, there's no books about him, no TV. He said he wasn't that good or that famous. He's just a minor artist. There's nothing about him. But I did find something. When I was there, it turns out that he was good friends with John Singer Sargent. John Singer Sargent, probably next to Whistler, one of the most famous American painter there was. They were apparently roommates for a while at art school and good lifelong friends. So she found me a little quote about Beckwith in a book about John Singer Sargent. At the bottom of the footnote, it says, this information was taken from the diaries of James Carroll Beckwith on file at the National Enquirer Design in New York City. And so I thought, boy, this is the only way I'm going to find something. It's the way I'm going to find something. What I was looking for at this time wasn't confirmation of what I'd seen. I was looking for the disproving fact. I was wanting to find a couple of things that I had said during the regression that weren't true. In other words, if I'd said Beckwith, had 10 kids and didn't have any kids, then it wasn't true. If I'd have said, I wanted to find something I'd said that wasn't true, because then that means this is not really a true memory. This is some garbled junk from somewhere. And so I ended up ordering Beckwith's diary. So that they didn't actually lend him out, but they had been microfilmed. And I always wondered why, since he's not very famous. The reason being is that while he wasn't very famous, he was friends with everybody who was. He was next door neighbors to Mark Twain when they both had summer homes up in the Catskills, and they lived next door to each other in the Catskills. He was good friends with James Singer Sargent. He was good friends with Claude Monet, the painter. He knew Sarah Bernhardt, the artist. He and Teddy Roosevelt were buddies. They used to go to lunch together when Teddy Roosevelt was the commissioner of police in New York City. He knew everyone, and his diaries are full of anecdotes about these people, and that's why they kept their diaries. So anyway, I ordered the diaries in the hope of being able to find a couple of things that weren't true, that simply were not right. That way I could dismiss this whole thing, because I really wasn't ready to accept this and change my whole worldview just on this information. But as I said, I had made a list of things I'd said during the regression, 28 things. And so I got his diaries, and I'm very dismayed to find out he was an extremely avid diary keeper. He started his diary at age 19 and made his last entry the day before he died at 65. There were over 17,000 pages of diary.
Whoa.
So what I did, I ended up having hard copy made of this microfilm, because when you had a microfilm, you could only keep it for 2 weeks. And
right.
You had to go to the library and do it, and it was really inconvenient. So I got the hard copy of it and took it home with me and read every single page of the 17,000 pages. It took me over a year to read it all.
Mm.
And what happened is I ended up confirming all 28 facts, every single one of them. I didn't find a single disproving fact. Everything I had said about Beckwith. For example, the Dr. Griffith, the psychologist who hypnotized me, asked me when it was over, says, "What did you regret about this life?" And I told her I regretted we didn't have any children because my wife couldn't have children. Well, sure enough, in Beckwith's diary on October 24th, 1888, his wife had a very, very difficult miscarriage, and after that couldn't have children. Even though he mentioned his diary a number of times about wanting to have children and love to have children, they never had any. Mm. Also during the regression, I had said, just come out of nowhere, just bubbled up on the surface of nowhere, I said she'd die of a blood clot. They said she'd die of a blood clot. I had no idea who I was talking about during hypnosis, only that whoever this was, this woman was extremely important to the person who I thought I was during this regression, because I felt like crying. At the moment, I was so emotional, I felt like crying, and I thought how silly this was during the hypnosis. I don't even know who I'm talking about, just a woman. So anyway, I thought, well, some very important woman has to die of a blood clot. This is not true. Well, I get to his diary. There were only 2 women that were really important to him. His wife, who he loved very much, and his mother, who he had absolutely adored. She was the one who encouraged him to become an artist. Well, when I got to December 5th, 1886 in the diary, Beckwith talks about his mother being in church and dying of a blood clot.
Mm.
So
just amazing.
Well, the thing is, every single thing I said, all 28 facts proved true. Not one single fact wasn't correct.
So, Robert, how did that change your view of life and death? I mean, that had to have been earth-shattering once you really got there.
It was. And that was the hard part. Actually, proving it wasn't the hard part. Accepting what it means, that was the hard part. What this meant was that all the people I've kind of rolled my eyes at and sneered at my whole life were right, and I was wrong. My whole view of the world was wrong, and people I'd always thought were kind of goofy and kind of oddballs, they weren't. They were right. They knew the truth, and I didn't. And so to change your whole belief system is not an easy thing to do. To completely reorder your thinking about how the universe works it took me a while to do this, to realize that my earlier beliefs were wrong, that the universe works on different rules than I thought it did, and that was really tough for me to do.
Yeah, I would imagine. Did your past life regression open you up to other paranormal experiences? And if so, do tell.
Not really. People have always asked me that. If you believe in astrology and other things, ghosts, and no. Again, I was a police officer, and police officers work on proof. You want concrete proof, okay? And that's what I wanted with this, and I finally got it. Apparently, I got the 28 factors. No, there's no other conclusion I can come to than I have Carol Beckwith's memories in my mind. That's the only conclusion I can come to. But as for people ask me, well, now do you do this? And I don't. You got to prove it to me. Show me some concrete proof. But and that people always find that hard to understand. They seem to think since I accept reincarnation that I would accept other things too, and I don't. Not unless you prove it to me. If you prove it to me like this would prove to me, I'll believe. I'm still hard-headed, but I demand proof. I demand proof, and in this case, I got it.
That's just amazing. Would you recommend this experience of past life regression to others? And if so, what caveat would you give?
Oh, I would. I think it was fascinating. It really was. It opens up your thought processes and it makes you think about things you've never thought about before. What could be true, what not. The problem is, of course, in life you're indoctrinated in certain belief systems, and you're told that if you don't believe in this, you're a heretic, and you're going to hell and all kind of stuff. And so it's hard sometimes to see other viewpoints and see them. So I think this could be very helpful to other people.
Oh, fantastic, Robert. Time flies when we're having fun. Do you have anything, I've got about half a minute, you could share with our listeners in closing?
Only the fact that you really can't just keep your worldview based on what people tell you is true. You have to really explore it and see what is really true for you.
That's amazing. Our guest this hour has been retired police officer Captain Robert L. Snow, and he is the author of Portrait of a Past Life Skeptic. His books and author's page can be found on Amazon.com by searching for Robert Snow. Robert, thanks again for being on The Science of Magic with us.
Well, thank you again for inviting me.
It's been fun. This has been The Science of Magic. Remember, you can always listen to past thought-provoking episodes on our website, www.thescienceofmagic.net. Until next time, dear ones, may you be blessed with knowledge, comforted with love, as you discover all that you are.